Hey everyone, today I've got the Innovation Circuit tracks and I'm going to be showing you 3 different ways to get triplets on it. The 3 different ways are intended for different purposes, so that they achieve it in a slightly different way, and depending on the context and why you need triplets, a different one might be better for that purpose. Before we get started, a quick reminder to like the video if you find it helpful or entertaining, and if you'd like to see more content like this, remember to hit subscribe. Anyway, let's get started with the first one. The first tip is to use the pattern speed option in the pattern settings. So let me just make a quick example here. So let's start with a kick drum. We'll just put we'll put a kick drum and a snare drum both on drum 1. Okay, and then let's get a hi-hat and just fill in all of drum 2, and we'll turn that down. There we go. And so now we're going to go into the pattern settings here, and in the pattern settings window you have the top 2 rows of pads which control like the last step, and since all the steps are just a hi-hat in this case, you won't be able to notice that. But then the next row controls the playback speed of the pattern. So currently this one is selected, which is normal speed. If I go to this one, it's triplets. This one is half speed, like that. This one is half speed triplets, which is the sort of polyrhythmic thing, and then this one is much slower, and then if you go up here it gets faster. So you can change the speed of one pattern or one drum relative to the other ones, which is useful to achieve triplets in the case where like something like this where it's just a constant thing as opposed to just having triplets on one step. Something like that, you can just do it by setting the speed to a triplet. However, let's say we want to have something like this, where the last step within the hi-hat pattern is an open hi-hat rather than a closed one, like this. You can hear that open hi-hat. Well, if we do that with triplets, the open hi-hat just sort of comes in and out of where we want it to be, and so it's gonna land on different beats every time. And so what do we do about that? Well, like I said, the top 2 rows of pads control what the last step in the pattern is. So if we put that here, so if we only have 12 steps, and then we make this step be the open hi-hat instead, that's exactly what we want. And this time the hi-hat will land in the same spot every loop, basically. So that's how you use the pattern settings and the pattern speed to achieve triplets. So let's move on to the second tip, which I'll just reset this project. The second way to do it is using micro steps. So if we go into the samples, and again let's just make a simple kick and hi-hat pattern, and this time we'll play the hi-hats in live. And then I'll turn the hi-hats down. Okay, so for this example the triplets is going to be on the snare track, so we'll just quickly choose a sample. Sure, that'll do. Okay, so now if we just put it there, very simple, but to show you what I want to achieve, I'll start by just playing it. I won't record it, I'll just play what I want it to be, like this. So see how every second time the second beat has a triplet, like 3 triplets after it. So let's try just recording that in live and see what happens. Okay, the thing is, because it's a 2-bar pattern, we need to press this button to activate it, the second bar. I forgot to do that. So let's see what happens. So as you can see, it quantized it, and it's not really where we want it to be. So that's because if you hold shift and toggle the record button, if it's green, that means you have quantization on, which means that every time you play something, it's going to snap it to the grid. In this case, triplets aren't on the grid, so we don't want it to get snapped to the grid. So we could just turn that off and play it in. And if you have enough rhythmic control to get the triplets right by playing it in, then go for it, and that might work for you. I'm pretty sure I could do that because I'm a drummer, but if you can't do that, I'll show you how to sequence that. So if you go into actually, let me just clear this pattern to get rid of the triplets, or the attempted triplets we just did. So this button here, it says gate, and when you're on a synth or a MIDI track, that will do gate, and the second function is the micro steps. But sample tracks don't have gate, so it just immediately goes to micro steps. So if we put these back on here, and then the second time, just back to the simple one without the triplets. In order to add the triplets, we're gonna put it on. So we'll make sure this is orange, which means you're in the second half of the second bar in the pattern. Go here, and we're gonna put it. Well, we're gonna put it on these two, which is gonna sound like this. It's still not what we want yet, but I'll show you. So that's still not what we want. But if we take this one, we go into the micro step menu just by pressing gate. We go into the micro step menu, and then I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera. Whoa. Okay. I'll just do that for now so you can see the lights better. As you can see on this step, you have these 6 pads which represent different micro steps. So if I fill these all in, just listen to what happens to this step. It plays a lot of notes very quickly. But so this is like dividing one step into 6 micro steps within it. So you can use these to creatively break away from the grid. So if you put this one on the 4th one, which is basically halfway through the step, like, because there's 6, so the 4th one is halfway through, and then on this second one you put it on the very last one, triplets. For some reason, when you do that, it takes off the sample lock, it puts it back to a blue one. In this case, because we're only using one sample on the track, that doesn't matter, but sometimes that will matter. Another thing I want to say, technically, to get proper triplets, this note would actually go here. So let's just do that. It will sound virtually the same, but technically for proper triplets, it has to go on that note there. Okay, let me put the light back on. Honestly, I think it looks better without the light. The next tip, the final tip, this is not necessarily it's not intended for triplets necessarily, but it can achieve triplets if you dial it into the right amount. And what it is the swing setting. So again, let's just make a simple kick snare pattern. And then we can add hi-hats on drum 2. Just fill in the whole thing. We'll turn it down a tiny bit. Okay, now, if you go into the tempo menu, obviously knob 1 controls your tempo, and you get a little readout here. Knob 2 controls your swing. So if you put it at 50, it's like perfectly straight on the beat. I don't really know how to describe what it does, but hopefully you can hear it if I push it to the extreme. So if you listen to this, the hi-hats are exactly on the beats. It pushes every second one later and later. So the ones that are on the 1, 2, 3, 4 stay where they are, but the ones that are in between them, the end of each one gets pushed back. Or if you go below 50, they get pulled forward. So every second beat is pulled to be earlier. So you can use swing, you can use it for a whole variety of different purposes, but if you dial it into the right amount, it can achieve something very similar to the triplet feel. So depending on what you want, you could use any of these methods. So if you want to just get like triplets for one pattern, like say for hi-hats, you want the whole hi-hat pattern to be triplets, or you want it to be swung, then you would probably go with either the pattern settings, the pattern speed here, or you'd use the swing in the tempo menu. However, if you just want like one step, like for example a triplet fill like what we did with the snare, in that case then it would make more sense to use micro steps. Depending on the context, obviously you're going to use different options in each scenario, but it's good to be aware of the different ways you can achieve certain things. One more thing that I forgot to mention, and I haven't seen anyone mention this before, and I don't know why because it's right there, but you see when you're in the tempo menu, these two knobs are tempo and swing, but the fifth knob, it's directly above the click label, so I'm sure you can guess what it does. But if we turn on the click, that knob controls the volume of the click. So it's actually not just an on and off, you get control over the volume if you go into the tempo menu. So that's pretty much it for this video. So there are 3 different ways to achieve triplets or swing, or a variety of things that involve triplets, and depending on the context you can use a different option. But hopefully you found these tips helpful. If you did, remember to leave a like, and if you would like to see more tips like this and jams and a whole bunch of content surrounding circuit tracks, and in the future more gear as well, remember to press the subscribe button and stay tuned to my channel. If you have any suggestions to make for future videos or ways I can improve the videos, I know I can definitely improve the video quality. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. And other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.